Okay, just a little intro on who you are and what you do.
My name's Alana. I'm 30. I have a 5-year-old daughter and I have a 2-year-old son. I'm a single mum. So my life at the moment is for my children.
Yep.
Yeah.
Love that.
I'm just on the countdown for when my son can go to kindy, and then I plan on starting my own, life, going back to work and doing things for myself. Yeah.
Get it, girl.
Yeah.
And what makes you want to share your story on the Let Me Speak campaign today?
So I'll start. So I had what's called a termination for medical reasons, and I really wanted to share my story because I know that this happens a lot, and I feel like people, I guess, are ashamed sometimes to actually admit why their pregnancy ended or how their pregnancy ended. I know a lot of people will say that they lost the baby and then they'll end the conversation at that.
Wow.
And I want to be that voice where I can share my story with everybody and I can let people know that it's okay to talk about it. And it is as recognised as much of a loss as any of the other ones. And it happens so often.
Wow.
And people just don't like talking about it.
Yeah, I don't even know if I've heard of it or met anyone that's...
Yeah, it's definitely a thing. Yeah.
So where does your journey begin?
So this pregnancy was in between my 2 children. So I got pregnant in 2018. I had a 2-year-old at the time, and everything was perfect. I took a test because my period was late. I didn't feel pregnant. I was like, oh, it's late, I'll take a test, and lo and behold, straight positive. So got the ball rolling with everything, and I went for my 12-week scan. All good, everything was perfect. I had you do like the prenatal bloods and all of that all came back low risk. It was great because of my age, and I was like, everything's cool. Everything was sort of trucking along. I didn't have any bad pregnancy symptoms. I just was sort of powering through. I thought maybe because my pregnancy with my daughter was easy, I was like, I must just be lucky. And then sort of fast forward, I had my anatomy scan at 19 weeks. And it was really cool. One of my really good friends had come over from Australia because she was having her baby shower. So my friend came along with me, and that was really cool because I'd missed out on her pregnancy because she was living overseas. So she came along with me. We were in the room. We were all sort of chatting away, and it was great. And I remember when the lady started doing all of the measurements, you know how when they do all this head circumference, body, circumference, all of that. I remember looking at the screen when she measured baby's head, and it was measuring at about 25 weeks. And I just remember sort of looking over and making eye contact with my friend, sort of being like, did you see that number too? And then the lady went and continued on and measured her abdomen. And that came back when, you click to save, it came back at 16 weeks. And again, I remember looking at my friend sort of being like, I saw that, did you? And we just gave each other a sort of look, and that was fine. The lady continued on, and, she said, do you want to find out what the sex of your baby is? I was like, yep, cool. She said, you're having a girl. I was like, great, cool. I was like, easy as, I've already got a girl. I've got all the girl stuff already. It'll save me some money. And then we sort of just left it at that. My children's dad was there too, and that all went over his head. He was oblivious. So I didn't really want to say anything at the time, and we sort of packed up. We went to, the baby shop up the road and got a couple of onesies and all of that. And I just remember on the drive home knowing that the measurements were way off. She was supposed to be 19 weeks, and she had this really big head and a really tiny tummy. And I remember pulling into the driveway at home, and I texted my midwife, and I said to her, I was like, there's something not right. The measurements of baby's off. Can you call me? and she called me and she was like, I've not even received the results yet. Like, hold the phone. Let me have a look. Like, stop panicking. She's like, I'll call you as soon as I've got them. And yeah, she called me back probably like an hour later, and she was like, I don't know how you've guessed it, but yeah, you're right. There is some things that are
like abnormalities.
Abnormal. Yeah. She said, she's like, the lady that did your scan has noticed that baby has a lot of fluid on her brain, and her brain hasn't formed. And she said that this was at one of those just, you know, like regular scan places, so the scanning technology is not great. And she said, oh, baby's got like a mass in her chest, and there was also something not quite right with her kidneys. It was something like echogenic or something. I think it's where they sort of flash back funny. And she said, like, don't look into it too much at the moment. Like, I'll email you through the scan results, and we need to book you into the fetal medicine unit in town, and you need to have a more in-depth scan. So me being me, and all my friends will know this, I like dived into the world of Google.
Oh,
you know,
fuck
I
yes.
was Googling, and it was just horrific. All the sort of prognosis and stuff for fluid on the brain and all of that sort of, I'd really hit Google hard. So I ended up going for a scan. I think it would have been, this was sort of coming up to Christmas time. And I remember there was just lots to do around then, and I think I had to have a look back at her notes, at baby's notes, because I couldn't quite remember the timeline of everything. But I believe I actually went through Christmas knowing that something was not right with my baby, but I just wanted to I didn't want to put a downer on everything for everybody, so we waited until the new year to go into town. To have this scan at the unit in town. And I remember going in there, and you get shuffled to this little back room. It's in like the second floor of town, and it's sort of all the way back, and you go through this little door, so you're shut away from everybody. And I remember going into the scan, and I had a guy who did the scan for me, and I said to him, I was like, I already know it's not good. And I was like, I've been Googling all of this. I was like, don't hide anything from me. I don't want you to be like sort of, you know, shuffle it away. I was like, if you can see something, like, I know that they can't diagnose it, you know, just to do the scan. I was like, but can you show me? So he was great. He was absolutely amazing. And he went through, and we had a really, really in-depth scan, and we had a 3D scan, and he showed me everything as we went through, because I'd said to him, I know baby's got some fluid on her brain, and there's other things going on. And so he went through and he showed me it all, and we did a little 3D scan of her, and he confirmed that she was a girl, and he pointed everything out. And then after that, I remember we had to wait in the room, and then he went to talk to a consultant, and then we got shuffled straight into a different room to talk to all the doctors. And you sort of know, again, when you get shuffled into a room and you've got a whole bunch of doctors and midwives around, that you sort of already know what they're going to say. And I had an amazing doctor. She was absolutely, like, hands down so good. And again, I said to her, like, I already know that this isn't good. I don't want you to sugarcoat what's going on. I was like, I'm very black and white about my beliefs and things like that. So yeah, she explained it all to me, that most likely my baby had what's called trisomy 18 or Edwards syndrome. It's a genetic syndrome, so it actually happens when your eggs are formed. So back when you're in your mum's tummy and your eggs are forming, it just happens that it's got two duplicates of the same chromosome. And yeah, she had massive amounts of fluid on her brain, and what had actually happened was the mass on her chest was actually her diaphragm had herniated, and then all the contents of her tummy, like her intestines, had gone up into her chest, and then actually pushed her heart over to the right hand side of her body. So it was just, everything was up, which is why her tummy measured so small, because there was nothing in there. I think another few things that they'd noted on the scan, that her eyes were not normal, they were abnormal. She had, it's called bilateral something, it's when they've got clenched fists and their fingers overlap. And normally when a baby's got clenched fists, it's not a great sign. And she also had what's called rocker bottom feet, so her feet went that way instead of that way. It was not cool, but like I got shown all of that on the scan, so he could show me. He showed me through it, and they talked about it, and she said to me, like, this is what's going on. You know, like the prognosis is not great. There's nothing that we could actually do to help her when she was born, that everything was so bad there was no fixing it. And I remember looking over the table at her, and I said, I was like, I know you can't tell me what to do. I was like, but like, is there any coming back from this? And she just shook her head at me, and I was like, that's fine. I was like, I don't really have any other questions. She offered an amniocentesis for me, but
what's that?
That's where they put a needle. It can either go through your cervix or into your tummy, and they take some amniotic fluid for testing.
Yeah.
And they can do genetic testing and stuff from that. But I think based on everything that she told me, I was like, I don't really think we need medical tests to confirm. I was like, I've seen on the scan.
Yeah.
I've seen it with my own eyes. And I was like, and you're a medical professional as well. I was like, I'm not, I was like, you've tried. She was apparently one of the best. My midwife said she was one of the best doctors I could have had. So then that took us down the road of what do we do next? Yeah. The doctor said to me she was genuinely surprised I was still pregnant. She was like, she's like, your baby's still alive. And I was like, she's moving. And she was like, they're not movements. She's like, it's not, like how when a baby kicks, she's like, she's not actually doing that. It's just involuntary sort of movements. I was like, she said her brain's not working. I was like, I'm feeling a kick. And she's like, they're not, kicks and stuff. So I had a midwife in the room with me, and they pretty much went down the path of what do you want to do next. And I'd already previously spoken to the kid's dad about, what we would do if it wasn't looking good, and we'd both decided that it was best to end the pregnancy instead of waiting for the inevitable. She was lucky to still be alive at that point in time, and the likelihood of me even making it to full term was pretty slim. And personally, like, I'm not that type of person that just wants to wait for the inevitable to happen, because then every day, like, it's a mindfuck. Every day you'd be like, is she still alive, or has she died today? And then having to go through it later down the track when, I looked pregnant, but I wasn't obviously pregnant, and we hadn't really told many people. So we decided to go down that path, and we were all booked in. So that scan took place on the 3rd of January 2019, and I would have been 21 weeks exactly. And a few days before, so I was booked in on the 9th. They set a date. I had obviously a child I had to make other arrangements for. It was quite good. I got to pick the day, pick the time. I had time to sort of mentally prepare for it all, and we told everybody that needed to know what was happening.
Yeah.
And a couple of days before, you have to go in and you've got to take some pills that it's like a pregnancy blocker hormone, so it makes your body think that you're no longer pregnant. And that was something that they didn't, or I knew that I had to do it, but nobody told me that it makes you feel really, really out of it. So for a couple of days beforehand, I just felt not myself. It felt like there was something wrong, because it's blocked the pregnancy hormone, so it makes your body think that you're no longer pregnant. And I just felt really weird. I could still feel him moving, and it was just, I just wanted to get it over and done with. We did have the option of stopping her heart before we had the procedure done. Yeah. And I'd looked into that, and that wasn't something that I was comfortable with. I'd been told that she wouldn't likely survive the birth anyway, so I didn't want to have the injection a couple of days beforehand because I don't even know how to word this really. You know, obviously once you've died, your body starts to go. I wanted her to come out as like normal looking as she could, if that makes sense. It's a bit, I wanted her to come out, you know, like as normal as she could. So I didn't want to have the injection to stop her heart beforehand. And yeah, so pretty much that led us to going into hospital on the 9th, and we had a special room in Wellington Hospital. It's called the Pohutukawa room, and it's specially designed for situations like mine and other people that are going through different types of baby loss. I just remember the room was beautiful, and it smelled like lavender, and it was warm, and it was just nice. You know, they wanted to make the experience as nice as possible.
Yeah.
And there was a little basket at the end, and it had all these little hats and little gowns and little nappies, and the lady said, like, pick whatever you want out of it, like, we get donated all of this, you can dress your baby in it. And yeah, so we started the procedure. It was quite early in the morning. What they do is they give you pills to induce labour. Really, yeah. So they do that, and they come back, and I think you get, I couldn't remember how long it was, but I think it was about every 3 or 4 hours. They came back and they gave you more pills, and they gave you more drugs, more painkillers. I'm all for that sort of stuff. So they, every time they'd come back, they'd give you a higher, you know, sort of dose of stuff. And so I wasn't in any pain. It didn't feel any worse than period cramps. I had my really good friend come in with me and spend some of the day with me. And I remember her telling me that when it got towards the afternoon, I was just so out of it. I was just talking smack to her. I was sat in like an armchair, and apparently she said I was just yabbering away. And she said it was great. We were laughing. I've only got sort of happy memories of the day. And then but what ended up happening was we were already, nothing really happened during the day. I was dilating and all of that was all progressing, and they were actually going to admit me overnight because nothing was really happening. So they were like, oh, we'll just sort of pack up for the night, we'll keep you comfortable, and you know, we'll do the shift changeover. So both the midwives left the room, and I remember standing on the edge of the bed, and I looked at my friend, and I was like, something's happening. And I've never seen her or the kid's dad sort of like run in such a flat, and there was like scream. And I was getting dragged into the bathroom. Like, I was just, it was, I can remember that moment really clearly. I just sort of got hauled into the bathroom, and I was like, I've got undies on, like, hang on. And yeah, I had her at 7:35 p.m. I had her in the bathroom on the toilet at the hospital, not on the bed. The midwife had spoken to me about it earlier, and she said a lot of women birthed in the bathroom because then it gave you sort of a moment on your own, especially when there was like nothing to clean up afterwards, and you could then go back to your bed. So I decided that that's what I wanted to do, and the lady was awesome. And I remember her taking baby. She said, do you want to hold her? And I was like, not yet. And I remember she was to the side of me. And one thing that stood out was they just treat you like normal people, you know. And she was talking to baby and, you know, being like, we're just going to get you wrapped up. We'll get you cleaned up. And I remember she checked that if she was alive or not. And she wasn't. And I remember sitting on the toilet, and the first thing I said to her was, does she look normal? Because I'd been into the world of go-go, and I knew that. That was one thing that really frightened me, was how she was going to look. And I said to her, I was like, does she look normal? And she was like, of course she does. She's like, she's absolutely beautiful. And I was like, okay. And that's when it all sort of hit me. I was like, oh God, I've just had my baby. Like this, you know. And she said to me, do you want to hold her? And I was like, not yet. And my friend, bless her, honestly, she was like, oh, well, So she took her. I'm so thankful she was there. She was about to go home. Like, she was literally about to leave to go home. And it just happened that she was there. So she took her into the other room and she took, like, literally thousands of photos. I'm like, I've got more photos of Natalie than I do of my other two kids. She took so many. And yeah, it was just, for how sad it was just such, like, a beautiful experience, I guess you could say. Like, they just treated her and, like, normal, like a normal baby, and they were talking to her, and they wrapped her up and they got her cleaned up for me, and they put a little hat on her. And yeah, I just remember looking at her the first time. I was just so amazed at how formed they are. Like, she was 21 weeks and 6 days, and she was just like a little tiny baby. The abnormalities were obviously quite obvious. I didn't see them. It was strange. I mean, you know, like, everyone thinks their kids are beautiful, you know. Yeah, like, she did have some quite clear abnormalities. Nothing scary, you know.
Yeah.
We had a little hat on her head because her head was really big, and it was really soft. So we had a little hat on her head, so just to sort of keep her all together. And yeah, we got to spend the night with her. We had people come in and take little hand and footprints.
Oh, cool.
We had a lady come and do hand and foot castings. We had a professional photographer come, and that was all organised by the hospital. I didn't have to do anything. They asked me if I wanted to have that sort of stuff done, and I said yeah. So yeah, they had all of that done. The photographer came the next day, actually, but yeah, we had all of that done. And throughout the night, they came in and checked up on me, and they would talk to baby, and they'd come, you know, if she was in a little basket, and yeah, they'd come and talk to her, and they'd sort of touch her, and, you know, ask me if I was okay. And yeah, it was just the treatment that, and I know probably not everybody has had the same experience as me, but the treatment was, like, absolutely amazing. Like, I couldn't have asked for that situation to go any better. Yeah. But yeah,
there's someone that's asking, was there anyone that was against your decision?
No. Well, I think I take that back. There probably would have been. We didn't tell many people. Yeah. So that's why I guess I am where I am now. Like, I look back and I shouldn't have been worried about what other people thought. Yeah. Like, it's my baby and it was my body. And I believe at that time I did the best thing I could have done for her. Yeah, I agree. She would have been in so much pain. Like, looking at her, I was like, there's no way. Like, I mean, you can't definitively say if babies can feel pain and so forth, but how she would have, like, her head was so big. But yeah, we just sort of said to lots of people after it happened, like, we lost the baby. And that was it. And because people don't like talking about it, they're like, okay, conversation finished, you know?
That's the easiest way to
the easiest way. Because I guess you don't know what type of reaction you're going to have from people when you tell them. Like, all my close friends and family and stuff, the people that need to know. One thing as well, we brought my daughter in. So she came to meet her. She was nearly 2.5 at the time, so her comprehension wasn't very good of it. But I think as well, another thing is it's really important to involve your children in that sort of stuff, because when you talk about those sorts of topics when they're young, and when you can expose them to that, like death when they're young, you can then talk about it a bit lightheartedly. You know, she used to tell people that we'd brought a baby home in a box and we had a baby in the wardrobe. And I was like, no, we don't. We've got her ashes in the wardrobe. But she'd quite happily tell people that her baby sister's in the wardrobe. Yeah. You know? And she knew that she wasn't alive. And yeah, it's just that sort of stuff. And we still talk about her now. She brings her up now. And I think, involving her in that. And yeah, like my friend who was there as well, like, she had told her daughter what was happening. And just having those types of conversations where you sort of normalize it.
Yeah.
And then the more you normalize it, the easier it is to talk about.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was, I got offered counselling afterwards. We had a follow-up appointment, you know, all of that sort of stuff. And my midwife, she couldn't be there on the day because she ran out of the hut hospital, but she would have been there if she could. If I was in the hut, she would have been with me all the way. I had the best midwife who checked up on me afterwards. So I know some people have mentioned that they didn't get a lot of aftercare.
Aftercare, yeah.
I got aftercare. I got checked up on. I had phone calls and text messages from my midwife for things like, how's your bleeding going? You know, all of that sort of stuff. You get given pills at the hospital before you leave to stop your milk. So, yeah, because that would have been just another added trauma to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I took these pills before I left the hospital, done. And my milk didn't come in or anything. So, I had as good as it could have been in terms of, like, the aftercare.
Yeah.
I joined, you know, like the SANS Facebook groups and all of that. I didn't necessarily get a lot out of those types of groups because the type of baby loss that I had isn't really talked about. Yeah. So I didn't really find sort of much help on that, but I did find a really cool group in America that's specifically for terminations for medical reasons, and it's so common. It's so common for all sorts of stuff, you know. And there's so many. That group was amazing. And then they also had like a sister group which was for, you know, pregnancies after that sort of stuff. Because I found
what was your next pregnancy like?
I sort of thought, you know, like another baby might fix it. Didn't.
Were you scared of, you know,
but I sort of took it. I really didn't take very good care of myself when I was pregnant with my son. I sort of was in that mindset like, oh, well, I've already had a baby die, like what's the worst that can happen now? Like, you've already been through the worst, so
is it kind of like just psychologically setting yourself up for
I really didn't bond with him. I remember sort of looking back. At the time I thought I was doing great, but looking back now that I've had him, I didn't really take very good care of my body. And I definitely didn't bond with him or talk to him or sort of gush over when I felt him kicking or anything like that. I don't really have any pictures of me pregnant.
Do you feel like it was out of fear?
Yeah.
You know, you don't want to get too attached to this baby.
Exactly that. Yeah, exactly that. I was like,
that.
if I don't get attached to him and if something bad happens again, I'm protecting myself. Yeah. I mean, now that he's here, he's like, you know, my kid's my baby. He sleeps in my bed. He's going to be my baby forever. But but prior to that, I definitely didn't. I really didn't take very good care of myself, and I didn't worry about what I ate or anything like that. I was like, you know, I've lost a baby, like, you know, which in hindsight is really not the way I should have thought. I should have gone above and beyond to protect the baby that I was carrying because he was alive and he was healthy. But yeah, it was just out of fear that something might happen. Yeah.
Understandable ways.
Yeah. But I had a really traumatic birth with my son as well, so it just really like went in the full circle there. But that's a story for another day.
Far out.
Yeah.
And do you have, when you do open up about this, do you have like mixed opinions from people? People
are actually pretty open. I think, like other people have spoken about, they don't want to ask you, I think, because they're scared of how I'm going to react when I talk about it. Yeah. But I would I'd happily talk about it. Like, I'll show you pictures. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I will talk about it for days. And my close friends, like my friend, my really good friend that was there was like one of those gushing grandparents, you know, if anybody asked her, she'd whip out her phone, get the pictures, you know, and it was great because like she was a person. I had to register her death, like, you know, she was acknowledged. But yeah, people, when you do tell them, they're sort of, they are really open about it, and they're pretty thankful that I'm okay to talk about it, because I think a lot of people wouldn't be okay to talk about this sort of stuff. Like, it's not something I'm not going to go walk down the road and tell the first stranger that I meet, but if I'm asked,
but it makes you think, God, what would you do in that situation as well? Not just putting your needs of wanting to keep this child with you, regardless of if that child's in pain, but actually putting the needs of your child before your own needs.
Because I mean, like, I had a look and I was hopeful, and I was like, maybe they can operate, like, maybe but I didn't, like, I would never want to bring a child into this world that's just gonna be in pain, and a child that's going to have, like, if any, like, a short life, and
like you were saying, no quality of life.
No, she would have had absolutely no, if she'd made it, she would have had no quality of life. And as well, I think it maybe would have been different if she was my first child. I had another child to think of. Like, I had a 2-year-old at home, which would have affected her, like, massively. If it's just I couldn't. I did it for her as well. From talking to other people, throughout my life and stuff, like, having a child. This is going to be quite controversial. Having a child which is medically dependent on something. I don't want to burden my other children with that responsibility. And that's, again, some people might really not agree with that. But I didn't want, especially, what if she had lived, and what if she outlived me? Who would look after her when I was gone? Things like that. That would then be put on my daughter. And I would never do that to anybody, that was a big thing as well.
It's one of those things that so many people could say that they would, but put yourself in that fucking situation.
No one else can comment until you're physically going through it.
Fuck you.
And every story is so different as well. Like, in my situation, like, she was not gonna live. There was she wasn't. Nothing was gonna make her better, like, at all. So that sort of stuff, that's when I guess you get into the realm of, when do you do it? In my situation, that was the best thing that I could have done. I saved her from any pain.
And I think in those, when I hear stuff like that, I think of them running around now up there and, living their best life.
She's not in any pain. And I know people that... Like, even, what's the thing? It's like 1 in 4 pregnancies end in a loss or something. Even in my, like, I don't have that many friends. I know, like, 3-4 people that have had some type of baby loss. I know somebody that's had to end their pregnancy too because of a similar sort of medical situation. And it's, even in my tiny circle of friends, like, other people have gone through that. And so it just makes me think that, if in my small group of people, I know people that have done it, how many other people are actually out there that have had this happen to them, but they just can't bring it, they can't tell other people. So that's what I really wanted, was to, I guess, share my story, like, in as much detail as I could, and to just let, it opens up to people asking questions, like, because people will be curious, and, I'm happy to answer questions when people ask, and to let them know that, like, it is actually okay. And she was a little perfect baby, and we talk about her all the time. And I've got pictures. I don't necessarily do too much, I guess, on her anniversary now. Like, I acknowledge her. I've got her ashes in a ring. I got a ring made with her ashes. That was weird, scooping the ashes out to send away. That was a whole nother weird experience. But I've got her ashes in the ring. Like, she's always with me. I got a bead made for my friend. Like, so she's got a little part of her toe. I got a bead made for my daughter. She's 5, so she's not getting that yet because she'll just lose it. For when she's older. And like, I've got a little memory box for her, and we bring it out every now and again. have a look through it.
That's cool.
She's definitely, like, not forgotten.
Yeah. See, we've got Alaska and his teddy bear, and he sleeps every night with his brother and sister.
Yeah.
He actually starts arguments between his brother and sister because
the
sister doesn't want him to sleep with him, and I'm like, bro, you act like he's 7 fucking foot. He's a fucking, oh god. Yeah. So he is alive and kicking in now. And I love that. I love that they talk about him.
Yeah. And I want it to be normal. I don't want it to be something that's been hidden.
Yeah.
Like, she's not this little secret, like, sort of thing. Like, my Evie still talks about it. She really is quite interested in cremation. You know how kids just ask very strange questions. So we discussed cremation and what happens and all of that. That was great time explaining about, fire and that. And she quite often, it's always when we're driving to school, when you're stuck in the car with them and you're driving to school, she'll be like, I wonder what part of Natalie is in your ring. And I'm like, I don't know, you to me. The other day she thought that her eyebrows might be in there. I was like, maybe her eyebrows are. Yeah. I was like, we don't know. I was like, she, But yeah, she loves talking about that sort of stuff. She still will be like, remember when I said that there was a baby in the box in the wardrobe? Yes. I was like, you can't be telling people that. We'll have the police.
Fuck, I reckon.
But yeah.
So before we wrap this up, is there anything else you want to share with us? Or any advice?
Advice is just like, don't, I guess if you're faced with a similar situation, sort of, one, you need to do what's right in your beliefs. Like, don't people please. Don't be a people pleaser.
Fuck, I reckon, because you have to live with that for the rest of your life.
Exactly. Like, that's on me. That was my decision. Don't people please, and like, just you do what's right, and listen to the medical professionals as well. Like, they train for so many years, and they're not going to tell you something that they don't believe is right. And also, like, afterwards, like, reach out. It is really hard to reach out because you will be met with people that don't agree with what you've done. So I guess it's just finding those safe spaces to talk. And there are groups on Facebook. Like, it is America, it's based in America, but there are groups on Facebook, like, just for this type of loss. Wow. And they were great, like, absolutely great. So there are groups out there. Obviously, SANS, they've got the group chats and stuff, and they're good. But that's pretty much it. It's just knowing that even though your pregnancy didn't end like other people's, like, it is still okay to talk about. Like, it is still your child. And you shouldn't be like a sort of ashamed or embarrassed or not wanting to share those details or photos. Because, like, one thing as well with sharing photos of her, I was quite apprehensive. Because she looked different. But people were happy to see her. They wanted. I had people messaging me saying, can I see a photo of her? Like, I'd really like to. Or when they'd message me on Facebook, they'd say, I know a friend, or I know somebody, or my cousin, or someone like that. And they would ask to see pictures of her, which was really cool. I didn't really expect that. But things like when you are faced with this type of situation too, is if you're comfortable, like, take photos and get all of that stuff that they offer. Like, they offer it and it's free. Like, you don't have to worry about, like, worrying about finances during that type of time. Like, it's all for free. Now I've got all these beautiful memorabilia. I've got photos, and I've got little itty bitty, like, hand and foot castings of her. Like, and I'm so grateful that I got all of that. Because, like, even right now, like, I can picture exactly what she looked like. It's, and that sort of stuff's awesome. Like, it's just so awesome.
Well, on behalf of CWK and us, I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your story with us, and we all wish you nothing but the best for your journey.
Thank you.